Hi there, Marky from Collab365. I just want to give you an overview of the architecture that's currently behind the Collab365 Toolbelt. If you found my video on Friday, you'll realize what we're trying to do is build an app of apps inside the Collab365 that the whole team can use to do these tedious small tasks that we call tools. And so I just want to give you an overview of all that and show you how it's built so far. So if you look at this screen here, this is in play mode on Power Apps. And what we've got here is a overall IDE that's got a list of tools that we've created. Now, by the time we finish this, I imagine we're going to have hundreds of tools because we do lots and lots of like manual little tasks that will all be automated. And so a lot of these currently are AI tools, which means that they're effectively wrappers around prompts. So if you've used ChatGPT, use Claude AI, you'll realize that you have to reuse your prompts time and time again. It becomes tedious. But a lot of the prompts out there, if you just Google, you'll see there's loads and loads of really well-crafted prompts. And a lot of them need you to insert data at certain points along the prompt. And so what we've done is we've taken some of the prompts, we've written some ourselves as well, and we've created placeholders in the prompt. So behind this, there is actually a prompt that you could literally just push into ChatGPT. But this is a way of consolidating. So if I go type in, I want a TikTok video on sausage making. I want it to be 1 minute long, and the audience is for sausage chefs. Call to action is buy my recipe book. Recipe book. Let's click run on that. So you can see that's running there. I need to put a progress bar there. But while that's running in the background, what's happened? That's going off to Power Automate. It's taken all of the information I've typed into there, and it's merged it with the prompt that we've actually got stored in SharePoint, which I'll show you in a second. And this allows us to create a whole uniformed approach in using AI tools, which is really useful for us. And we are trying to follow the practice that if the output we get isn't good enough, we're trying to refine the prompt until we get to a stage where when we come to one of these tools, we fill in those boxes, we're going to get something out that's really useful for us. And so that's just going off to OpenAI API via Power Automate right now. And then when it gets its response back, which is just done, it's going to write that back into a SharePoint list, which I'll also show you as well. So this is, I won't even bother reading it, but that's potentially a TikTok post that we could go and put into something like BigView and transcript, and it gives you a really good idea. I've also built this idea, which I'm currently working on, called Run Command. Now, Run Command is going to give you the ability to edit this, because obviously you're not 100% of the time going to get everything you want out of AI. So you're always going to probably have to change a few things here and a few things there and put it in your own words. Now, what the next part of that's going to be, is which I'm thinking about heavily now, is my concept of commands. So I've got this text here. What do I want to do with it? In this case, you'd probably want to send it to TikTok. So you probably have a send to TikTok option there, which would then go running. It would either use, if Power Automate does have a connection, it doesn't to TikTok. You'd probably go over to Make. So you'd send the data over to make.com or Zapier, if you're familiar with those kind of tools, and do it that way. Or you might find there's an API in some of these tools. But I think we'll end up with loads of commands here that we're going to use. So we'll basically use AI to get the thing we want. Then we might want to do something. It might be send an email, for example. It might be create an ebook. It might be create a blog post. So there's loads of things we want to do. So that's the concept of commands. Now, the other really important thing on here, which is I quickly found when I started doing this, I originally created 3 tools, and being a developer, something didn't sit with me right, because what I did is I created probably say these 3 tools here, and it didn't sit right simply because I created 3 screens. So one tool had 1 screen. Imagine if you've got 1,000 tools in your organization, which some companies are going to. That's 1,000 screens in Power Apps you've got to maintain. And yes, you can use components to make it a little bit easier. But there was one massive problem I couldn't get round, and I'm pretty sure there isn't a way. I couldn't make this dynamic because these substitute placeholders here come from SharePoint. So let me just show you SharePoint. So this list here is a list of all the tools. So every tool on here, if you look at them, create, tweet, YouTube thumbnail, is the same as everything we've got on this screen here. So this is effectively a gallery control that shows the tools, which is all good. But the problem you've got is if you want to create a tweet, you're going to want topic tone. Whereas if you want to create a YouTube thumbnail generator, you're going to want the titles to place on the image itself. Whereas if you want to format to CSV in a table, you're going to want to put CSV into there. Now, obviously the user needs to know what these are, so you need to name them. And so the last thing I wanted to do is I didn't want to create one screen for one tool, because that, putting my developer on, is a maintenance nightmare. And I couldn't find a way to dynamically pass in from SharePoint these field items. So what we've got now is we've got the concept of, if you look at the prompt behind some of these, so summarize a workshop, that's a good one. Just let me go and edit that. Sorry, the sun's in my eyes. Here we go. Answer should be embedded in HTML tags. This is the transcript for a workshop we presented. The workshop recording is now for sale on demand. I want you to read the transcript and pick out 10 key things that a person watching would learn. Here's the transcript. And so what we do is we go over to Vimeo or YouTube, wherever it is, we get the transcript, and then we remove all the timings out of the transcript and we paste it into that tool. But the key point there is that transcript there. If you remember that word transcript, and let's go and open up the Summarize Workshop transcript in the app. So if we go back here, let's go find it. Here we go. It's this one. There you go, transcripts. And I've given it a nice label as well. But that's effectively what I've done is I've taken that placeholder in the prompt and I've drawn a text box on there. And I had to do it with PCF component. And the PCF component I did in version 1 was all very well. And this is the good story. So I went back here and YouTube thumbnail, I gave this to the lads and they absolutely loved it. So let me just show you this very quickly. So we want to go create a 1, 2, 3, run that. And if it's still all up and running, you're going to get about 1, 2, 3. So that's exactly the words I typed in it. Now turn that into a PNG. And so Connor and John were absolutely blown away with that, because that saves them time, because that allows them to go and create YouTube thumbnails that they all got the same, but at least that bit's different. It allows them to do it. But the next thing is we've got quite a few of these different types of YouTube thumbnails. So for example, if I want one, I don't really want Connor and John on, beautiful as they are, I don't want them on my video because it's obviously me speaking. And so obviously the next thing was they needed some way of doing a pull down list so they could pick the type of template. Now, my early version of the PCF component didn't do that. So what I've since been doing over the weekend, I've written a completely new one in React, and that now allows me to put lists in, and it's all defined with JSON. So what I'll do in a later video, I'll show you how I've done that. So effectively, I'm calling it a JSON form, and effectively you can pass some JSON into my PCF control, and here it will then do exactly the same job, but it's going to be way more flexible, and it's going to be really easy for me actually to add things like SharePoint file pickers, date pickers, that's another big one, and maybe toggle boxes, check boxes. So I'm going to add support for all the common ones that we need as a team as we do them, and that will be done in our PCF component. So that one thing there, even though it's been a bit of a pain to do, because if you've not developed PCF components, you'll realize actually they're quite painful to get into. But once you're into, they're not too hard if you're a developer. If you're not a developer, you're probably you're going to struggle a bit. But I quite like them. So that has allowed us to look at the app here. We've only got one control here, which is the main one, to allow you to navigate all the tools. And then we've actually got this AI tool screen here. And then these two really are just me testing. So we've got 2 screens that support currently 30 tools. And if we have 700 tools, it would still be 2 screens. So the overhead of maintaining this is going to be very negligible. And it means actually that we've unified all of the tools in the same consistent look and feel. They're all going to work exactly the same. And anybody that's used one tool is going to be very familiar with another tool. So I think this is really quite a compelling thing to do. And it's not just AI either, because that YouTube one I told you about, that uses the same PCF component, which takes the JSON in, passes on to Power Automate, goes off to a service called Renderform, gets YouTube thumbnail back, and then I'll tell you what that does now. But the point is, that one control I developed, which took me 2 days, is probably going to save us hundreds and hundreds of hours creating an app that's got 700 screens. And I don't even know how all that perform. And I don't know if there's even a limit in Power Apps to create more than 700 screens. So sometimes it is worth developing. If you can't find it out of the box, it is worth giving it a go. And so what happens, if I just show you this again, what happens is this came back and it just got displayed. So this is a HTML view control. And the reason I made it HTML view is because some of the responses you get back, for example, if you want help writing an email, you probably want it formatted in HTML. And what I do in a lot of our prompts in the tools, I say answer should be embedded in HTML tags. And that tells OpenAI to format the text with H1s, bullets, if it needs, and a bold. And then that means on here, it will display nicely. So let's just go back a bit. Power Automate, for this one, we take the information on here. Power Automate wakes up and it goes and does the thing. And when it's done the thing and got the response back, which is the PNG, we receive the response back. And then I pop into a SharePoint list. And the SharePoint list is called Conversations. Let's go to Site Contents and let's go to the AI Conversations. So this list here is literally a title, which I need to improve. Conversation ID, that's a GUID I create in Power Automate to make sure that the conversation with the chatbot is always unique. So if you've got 5 messages, they'll always be threaded together. Who requested it, what the message back was, and that's pretty much it. We're going to improve this a lot, but that's pretty much the basics of it. So what you're seeing here really is a gallery control with SharePoint list items filtered on the conversation ID. And that means in the future, because we've saved the response, it means in the future, we can actually create functionality in the app, which we're going to do, which allows me to see my history. So I'll add provisioning on here for me to see my previous chats. And it also means if we're running a long tool that takes 10 minutes, you don't want to sit there waiting for this thing to run. What we're going to do is we're going to put it on Power Automate. So it goes off in the background and runs. You can then leave the app. And then what will happen, we'll send a push notification down to the phone and also a Teams alert with a deep link so you can actually click on it and go to the tool with the results in there. So that allows you to go and be work while the tool's running for you. And so I think that's going to be cool. We're already finding just with these tools, it's hard to find a tool. We've only got, what's that, 16, I think. We've got categories so you can categorize them, and I need to reorganize all these properly. But those are the ways to categorize them. But we're already finding we need to be able to categorize them and have your own ones. So what we're probably going to do, we're going to have some funky little feature, which is like bookmark this tool. And then you'll have my bookmarks. So you'll have a concept of the tools you use. Then we'll have a like button or a rating. Actually, we'll have a rating so you can rate the tool. And then on top of that, we'll also record how many times the tool's getting hit. So once we've used this down in a year, you're going to find the ones that are highly rated plus that are used all the time are the popular ones, and they'll probably pop to the top. And so there'll be a way to sort order it by rating, by how many likes it's got, etc. And I think this is crucial. We're only a team of 4, and it's possibly not going to be that brilliant data. But if you're a company of 10, 20, 30 people, information about how people are using your app of apps is incredible. So that's it. That's the kind of architecture of the Toolbelt. If you've got any questions whatsoever, then happy to answer them. We are starting to try and create the conversations of the Collab365 Academy because we're probably going to create a dedicated space for all this because there is a lot of things I want to share that probably aren't worthy of a video or a blog post. They're just like resources and tools that I find, and people probably want to ask questions. So if you do want to continue the conversation and ask me questions and talk about how we could take this forward, or you've got ideas as well, I'd love to hear them. Then join the Collab365 Academy. But apart from that, hopefully that's useful. And I hope you are going to follow along on the journey. If you do, just click subscribe. And then when I do these videos, you should get a bit of a notification. All right. So over and out for me. Ta-ra.